Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James. This is your everyday Rangers news channel, guys. We are starting a new week. We're breaking into yet another week, and July is just round the corner. Isn't it mad that over half the year is already over and done with? And do you know what? We're fast approaching the start of the season. Again, it doesn't seem like 5 minutes since the last one finished. On obviously the 22nd of July, we play our first competitive game against Panathinaikos. Obviously, we've got pre-season friendlies coming up. Those don't matter as much, obviously, as that game on the 22nd, and then the second leg on the 30th. The Champions League, qualifying for the Champions League, and that precious Champions League money mean everything to the club, especially at this present moment in time as we seek to build for the future. Now, look, I think, are all reaching the point where we're a bit like, where are the signings? Where are the signings? It's a bit, like you're sitting in the corner. Where's the signings? Where's the signings? Where's the signings? Where are the signings? You're getting a bit on edge about the signings. Max Aarons has arrived from Bournemouth on loan, so we know that one is through the door. However, we don't know what else is through the door. We don't know what's happening next. We're going to talk a bit of Connor Cody. We've got a bit on Owen Beck, a bit on the strikers situation, and a bit on what we really need. That's another big one for me. What we actually genuinely do need. I think there's some interesting bits and pieces. First of all, there seems to be obviously a lot of players back at the club now. Kieran Dowell obviously played in that behind closed doors friendly game for Rangers against TNS, which ended in a 1-0 defeat, and I'm not going to say any more on that. So he's played there. Ben Davies apparently is rumoured to be in Russell Martin's plans for the future. Apparently he likes the way that Ben Davies plays. He likes his playing style. He likes the way he passes the ball out from the back. He likes the control that he has. Very much fits the Martin system apparently. So could we see the possible move to Birmingham rejected by Rangers, and that Ben Davies remains as a Rangers player? That seems very much on the cards still. Right, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen. So, the title of the video was "It All Happens Tuesday." So, look, it seems like Tuesday is the day that everyone's kind of identified as when the market will start getting moving for Rangers. Now, because of the fact that takeover happened as it did, because of the fact we are where we are financially, it seems like we have to wait until the end of the FFP, PSR, whatever you want to call it, year. And then when the new one starts. So the new FFP, PSR year starts on Tuesday. So anything that happens before Tuesday is included in last year's FFP PSR, which is not great for Rangers. As we know, there was the debt there, etc., etc. Having new owners makes absolutely zero difference to that. The new year begins on Tuesday. So as of Tuesday, slate's wiped clean. You begin again with a new FFP PSR kind of piece of paper in front of your club, and you can start to make your dirty marks on it from that point. So it appears that Tuesday is the day. Now, the first, obviously, as I said on the podcast last night, it appears that Connor Cody will be the first player through the door. Obviously, reports and rumours suggesting that a fee is in the process of being agreed with Leicester City for the player. Connor Cody very anxious to join Rangers, as Jermaine Defoe indicated in the interview that he gave, that he'd spoken to Connor Cody, that he'd emphasised the benefits of playing for Rangers, he'd emphasised the benefits of the club, talked about the size of the club, and Connor Cody had talked about the fact that he was going to find it unbelievable if he ended up at a club like Rangers, and he was really hopeful that he would. So that's all, that's all massively positive. And as I've said on numerous videos, I'm not going to spend a long time on Connor Cody. He's a player that I like. He's a player that I would love to have at the club. I think he'd be a leader, someone who could really make a difference in the dressing room, give us that leadership at the back that we don't have at this present moment in time, since Connor Goldson left. Now, other than that, the other story that was going round, so obviously we signed Max Aarons. The other story that was going round was around the Liverpool left-back, Owen Beck. Now, Liverpool have just splashed 45 million on Milos Kerkez, the Hungarian international left-back. They also still have Kostas Tsimikas and Scottish international Andy Robertson on their books as well. So there's three left-backs at Liverpool, sorry. So one of those three apparently is likely to leave, but Liverpool are still keen to retain the services of Owen Beck. Now, according to reports on Merseyside, Beck is close to agreeing a new contract with the club. This sort of flies in the face as to what was being sort of talked about post that loan spell at Blackburn, that he was going to be sold. That seemed to be the indication around him. Now, Beck is from Wales. He's a Welsh international for the under-21s. He's played 14 times for the under-21s. Came through the youth system at Liverpool after spending time with Tranmere and Stoke City. Has had loan spells with Bolton Wanderers, Dundee and Blackburn. So has played in the SPL. And during his loan time with Dundee in the SPL, he looked very much at home. He looked very good, very accomplished, and certainly, more than coped with playing in the Scottish Premier League, which certainly, stands you in good stead if Rangers were to go and actually, try and bring him to Ibrox. Now, I'm not saying this is fact, this is gospel. This is just, I'm giving opinions and views on what I think could happen and what would be a decent move for the club. Like I said, Beck is also a young player. He's 22 years old, still up and coming, still developing, still improving, and certainly has, I think, done that during his loan spells with Bolton, Dundee and Blackburn. Obviously, his most recent one being at Blackburn in the EFL Championship. Now, as I said, Liverpool are anxious to agree a new contract with Beck. So if that's the case, if he agrees a new contract, then they're very unwilling to sell him. So it appears that any move by Rangers for Owen Beck would be another loan. Now, whether that will be a loan with an option to buy, I think that again is highly unlikely given the fact that Beck has just signed this new contract, unless he has signed this new contract to increase the amount of money, increase the fee that Liverpool can demand for him. I don't know. I'm just kind of surmising and trying to give you all the whys and wherefores on this one. So it'll be another loan. Now, personally, I think Owen Beck is a very good footballer. I think Owen Beck will be a very good player to bring into Rangers. I really do. I think he would really add to this squad. I think he's better than Hjefte. I think he's better than Ridvan. I think the only thing that would perhaps kind of scupper this is the fact that Hjefte is at the club. Hjefte is a very young, up-and-coming, promising player, a bit like Owen Beck, unless you're going to work on the basis that Ridvan is going to leave. Robbie Fraser doesn't have a future at the club, so therefore Owen Beck is the next player through the door. So if Beck comes in, sure, that would kind of indicate that if he's on loan from Liverpool initially, possibly with an option to buy, maybe not, I don't know, that he would play. So where does that leave Hjefte? My personal opinion would be that if we can get Beck with an option to buy, then he comes in because he's a lot better player than Hjefte. He is more sound defensively. He's better going forward. He just looks a more accomplished left back, a more complete left back than Hjefte. So for me, it's a no-brainer. If Beck could be acquired, then we go for it. But only if you can get an option or obligation to buy inserted into that contract. Realistically, with Max Aaron's on loan without the option to buy or obligation to buy, with the Cortez situation, you might not want the obligation to buy any further. But Beck, if you can't get him without the option to buy, do you really want two fullbacks that come the end of this season are probably going to go back to their clubs, and you're going to face another situation like the Tillman situation, like the Tierney situation, like the Seamer situation, where you've done well, you've developed their players, you've made their players look better, but you don't get any of the benefits, although we are getting some money from the Tillman deal. So I don't know. It's a complicated one. Personally, I think, like I said, if you can get it with an option to buy, I think Rangers should pull out all the stops, go to Liverpool and try and get hold of Owen Beck, because to me, he is a top class left back and someone who I think has a big future in the game, and certainly someone that I think could come into Ibrox and make an instant impact on the team. Obviously, Rangers have made another signing, apparently made another signing, which is Zebedee Lawson, the young 16-year-old from Brighton. This is another one for the future to be added into the academy. This comes on the back, of course, of Alfie Hutchinson leaving Rangers to go to Newcastle United. Obviously, a very promising, talented player. Alfie has departed the club. It's always the worry, isn't it, with these young players, that we're going to lose them to the English Premier League, obviously, where they have more money, mega bucks, and more ability to kind of bring the players through. And I think the thing that goes against Rangers sometimes, and Zebedee Lawson may find this, same way that Hutchinson has and other players have, is the fact that Rangers don't really bring through their own youth products, that we don't develop a lot of young players, and that we do need to really work on that and develop that. And hopefully that's something that Russell Martin will improve over his time as Rangers manager, however long that tenure may be as the Rangers head coach. Really does need to look at that, develop that, and improve the number of young players that come through the system. I really genuinely believe, we've talked about obviously the two strikers possibly coming in if one of Dessers or Hamza moves on. Again, that could, it could even be that those deals are being held back so they come into the new FFP year. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to guess and trying to work through what is happening with the club at this present moment in time. So let's say if one of Dessers or Igerman does leave this week after Tuesday, that then maybe the Turgeman deal or the Freegan deal can go through. Personally think that Turgeman is the most likely. especially after he indicated that Maccabi Tel Aviv that he wants to join Rangers, that he wants to be a Rangers player. I mean, Turgeman's a good player, don't get me wrong. He's a very good footballer, and I think he would really add to this team and improve this team. I think he's better than what we've already got at the club, with perhaps the exception of Hamza Igaman. So, I think he is someone who really does add. And I'd like to see Freegan as well. I think, as I said on the podcast last night, if we do end up selling Dessers and Igaman, say bringing in around about £20 million for the pair of them, if you can then go and sign, say, Turgeman and Freegan for around about 11-12 million, you're still turning a profit on the pair of them. So for me, that would be really good business by the club. And it would also, I think, leave, if you say even 12 million on two strikers, 12-14 million, you're still turning an £8 to £6 million profit over the term, even though you're bringing in those two players. That money again could then be put into buying other players. Personally speaking, I think we need a right winger. I think that's a position we do need to address. I mean, if you look at that depth chart that was brought out the other week that showed Dowell and McCausland as the only right wingers at the club, unless, of course, you play one of the strikers out there, Danilo out there, whoever, or even push James Tavernier further forward as a right winger. I don't know. But, realistically, with the departure of Tierney and the fact we've missed out on Poku, I've got to say, QPR, you're pathetic. I mean, you really genuinely are. When you tweeted out that thing about Poku joins the Rangers, mate, seriously, you're not even in our ballpark. You've won one trophy in your history, which was the League Cup, and that was lucky. You're probably one of the most irrelevant clubs in London. You genuinely are one of the smallest, most irrelevant clubs in London. And if you look up the word mediocre, there's a picture of your badge next to it. So just grow up. But missing out on Poku, I think, was a big one. I think he was a big hope for Rangers that they could get him over the line after Tuesday. But obviously QPR got in ahead of us. So I think there's a real need to go and try and find a right winger and bring in a right winger to the club. I do think that is a real massive need for Rangers going forward. But I think, looking at it logically, looking at the way things are shaping up, I think Tuesday we could see players in, players out. Some people have talked about 2 in, 4 out. Who those 4 are, I don't know. Dessers, Hamza, possibly the 2 of them being favourite, and maybe even Davis, Dowell, maybe Davis, Matondo. Matondo is rumoured to be interesting, a Turkish club. It certainly won't be Cifuentes. He has returned from Aris, which I don't think is great because, let's face it, the guy doesn't even want to be here. He made that pretty much clear when he left on loan, and this just isn't a player in there. He seems to lack a yard of pace. He really does, and certainly isn't the game changer that Michael Beale made him out to be. So look, guys, hopefully from Tuesday we'll start bringing you news of signings. Something needs to happen. 22nd of July is the game, but your squad has to be in the week before that. Ties, you're looking at the 14th, 15th of July. So it's really getting down now in days for Thelwell and Purdy to work their magic and bring in some players for that Champions League. Because let's face it, the squad we currently have would, I think, exit the competition very, very quickly and in very humiliating fashion. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. If you've enjoyed the content, please obviously like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We are the people.